Well, guys, I am cutting it extremely close to the wire, but I have finally now watched and seen all of the Bourne films leading up to the release of Jason Bourne, which comes out in 2 days. Let's see if it was all worth it for the third film in the Bourne installment, or the Bourne trilogy, the Bourne Ultimatum. Hey there, guys, what's up? What's going on? It is Autobot Mike 18 here, back with another one of my old movie reviews. Guys, I know a lot of you are probably like, alright, you had to go review the whole Bourne trilogy. I want to see reviews for some other classic movies, you know, from some other filmmakers, okay? Take a break from spy action thriller movies, alright? I'm going to get back on track. I just had to watch all of these movies before Jason Bourne releases, because it comes out tomorrow, or on Friday. But by the time this goes up, it is coming out during tomorrow. I'm going to upload this tomorrow, Thursday. Bourne comes out on Friday. I'm going to see Jason Bourne, well, by the time I'm uploading this tonight, I'm going to go Thursday night to the early advance showings and catch a showing of the new Bourne film. But before that, let's talk about the third film in the trilogy, the Bourne Ultimatum, which was released in 2007 and was yet again directed by Paul Greengrass, returning in his role as director. He had stepped in for Supremacy, and now we have Bourne Ultimatum. Matt Damon is back in the lead role, and we had this film, and right after this film, 5 years later, we had The Bourne Legacy come out and stars Jeremy Renner, and it took the story in a different direction. Had nothing to do with Matt Damon's character, from what I've heard. I'm not going to watch and review that movie. Not only does Jason Bourne come out in 2 days, but I heard it was nah. I heard it wasn't that great. Doesn't matter. You don't need to see that before you go see this. Hopefully they don't tie into each other or something like that. If they do, I'm screwed, but what are you going to do? So that said, guys, the Bourne Ultimatum. Let's get into the premise of this movie before I get into my thoughts. And of course, stay tuned for my review of the newest Bourne film, Jason Bourne, coming out on Friday. So guys, the Bourne Ultimatum once again follows Jason Bourne, and this is actually set literally right after the events of the Bourne Supremacy. As a matter of fact, one of the scenes in this movie ties into the ending scene of the Bourne Supremacy, as a matter of fact. But the Bourne Ultimatum follows Jason Bourne yet again as he starts having flashbacks and flashes of when he first started joining Treadstone, and when he first actually became Jason Bourne. As we know, that is not his real name. That is not his true identity. So he has these flashbacks. There are these two men that are involved in the program that he sees in his flashbacks, so he obviously wants to find them and find out more about how he essentially became Jason Bourne. And once again, the CIA is hot on his trails. They are after him in this movie, and yeah, he's on the run in many, many different countries and states once again. And that, my friends, is the Bourne Ultimatum. Now, that is essentially the bare bones synopsis of me giving away the premise of this movie without spoilers. And I know that sounds incredibly bland, and it sounds way too similar to the Bourne Supremacy's synopsis. I'll get into that in a bit. But guys, the Bourne Ultimatum, I was definitely looking forward to this movie because everybody says that this is either their favorite Bourne film or their second favorite Bourne film of the whole trilogy with Matt Damon. So for that reason, I was definitely psyched to see it. And obviously when this movie came out in 2007, I had not seen the other Bourne films, so I naturally did not see this. So guys, the Bourne Ultimatum, I feel that it's great. You know, it's fun, it's entertaining, the action is probably even bigger, the set pieces are for sure bigger than that of the Bourne Supremacy. The pacing is there, the performances and everything is there. But the one thing that wasn't quite there for me was the structure of the overall script and the plot. And that ultimately is what's keeping me from saying, yeah, this is the best Bourne film, or yeah, this is the most unique Bourne film. You know what I mean? Because honestly, for me, after having watched the Bourne Ultimatum, I felt like it was almost the same exact movie as the Bourne Supremacy. I really didn't feel there were too many things different other than new characters that are added in, but the overall basic plot structure of the CIA hunting Bourne because he has another set of memories, I felt was just you know, it just derived right from the the last Bourne film, Supremacy, which I honestly think is a slightly better movie than this movie. That said, I want to talk about the good real quick before I get back into that. Don't worry, I will tap her into that. I do think there are some really redeeming aspects of the script of this movie, though. That's something I definitely praised the last two Bourne films the most, was the script and how well I connected to the character of Jason Bourne, or how well I sympathized for him and how well I rooted for him on his journey. I thought they established that character very well in the last two movies, and I thought Matt Damon did a really good job bringing that character to life. I think that his performances in those two movies were two of his best, and I think he is great yet again in this. And something that this screenplay does really well, and it did it well in Supremacy. I guess it does it well when it is working as a thrilling, intense, you know, just moment after moment, like, Jason Bourne is going to do this. Holy crap, he just threw the CIA guys a completely unexpected turn. They had no idea he was about to do that. He is gonna, yeah, he just messed up all of their plans. That happens a lot in this movie, specifically in one moment of the end where we have essentially our main antagonist for Jason Bourne in this movie. I can't say this guy's last name, David something. David something. I'm sorry, guys. He plays the head CIA guy in this one, okay? He wears the glasses. I don't even remember his name. But there you have it. There's one epic moment in the finale of this movie where there's a phone call between him and Jason Bourne, and I loved it. It was so unexpected for me. I was like, oh crap, I did not think Bourne was going to do that. But then again, every single time Bourne sets up these people to, you know, maybe he's going to set up a meeting somewhere with one of their operatives, or one of the main characters or something. He completely throws a 180 and he's somewhere else, and I love that with this movie. I love how the script always throws surprises and shocking moments for the audience, because that gives us the fact that Jason Bourne is always one up of these people. He always is one step ahead, and he's very not organized, the word, observant. He knows people. He understands people incredibly well, and that's something that they nailed in the Bourne Ultimatum. They probably nailed that component of this character, of this man, more so than they did in the last two Bourne films, because of certain moments like this where the script just takes a complete 180 and you're like, holy crap, he's not going there. He's this place. He's in this place. Or no, wait, he's going to this place. He's just screwed up their plans. You know what I mean? It's just moments like that are just give you goosebumps. And I think that it's because of moments like that, unexpected moments like that, I get as hooked into these movies as I do. And I think that they really, really work, and I give the movie a thumbs up for that. So the script has great moments like that, and it has some really great action sequences that do hold up. For me, this felt like a non-stop hour and 50-minute thriller where it was literally like one whole story, you know what I mean? Like, there's no breaks. Like this movie felt like you barely had enough time to breathe. Like, it literally kept going. Like, the characters go from one set piece to the next set piece to the next set piece. Literally no stops, no breaks, no nothing. It feels like one whole story of Bourne trying to accomplish one thing, get to this one place and figure out his past in the end of the movie. Specifically, one of his first actions that make him become Jason Bourne, and he gets initiated into Treadstone, essentially. And there's a big twist at the end and everything, and to get to that moment, it's literally just a bunch of hectic, intense set pieces, action set pieces that just keep going and going and going and going until you're like, holy crap, I can't take this anymore. This is so freaking intense. I can't wait to see how everything is going to resolve. Like, how is this conflict going to resolve? How are these characters going to get out of this? You know what I mean? So I loved how the script felt so kinetic, and that also definitely is thanks to the pacing. The pacing in this movie is excellent, but again, that's obviously also going to tie into the writing. So the best thing going for this movie is that, and the fact that I feel intense. The tone works. It's tonally consistent throughout this entire movie. The script as a whole introduces characters that may not be as fascinating as Supremacy, but they are still fascinating on their own right. You still want to see what their ulterior motives are, like David Strahan, his character, I can't say his name. Albert Finney is in this movie. Joan Allen may or may not, be involved. Obviously she is involved in this movie, but maybe her and Bourne are like, maybe there's something else going on here, something I'm going to help you out with or something. So I thought that worked. Julia Stiles comes back into play into the movie, which I'll get into a little bit. And yeah, so the cast and the performances are all good. There's nothing to question there. And the action set pieces are very well directed. There is a sequence in Morocco involving the characters jumping off rooftops and shit. I gotta give them massive, massive credit, because the planning and the blocking and the overall thought process that went into staging this chase scene, my mind was blown. I was like, they must have taken so much time to figure out how is Jason Bourne going to get from point A to point B to point C to point D? How is Julia Stiles' character of Nikki going to be involved in this? Where are they going to send her character? The operative that's after them, the asset that's after them, as they call him in the movie, how is he going to factor into this? It's just a really intense, frantic and hectic moment that had me for sure on the edge of my seat, and with the way it was cut together and the pacing was excellent. But by far my favorite scene in this movie is the scene at the Waterloo train station where Bourne meets up with the reporter, and there is a sniper from the CIA. Edgar Ramirez's character is involved, and he's hunting them down. Other CIA operatives are hunting them down. It's frantic, it's hectic. I love that scene. It might be one of my favorites, if not up there in my top 3 favorite scenes out of all the Bourne films. I loved it. It was the best scene in this movie, in my opinion, and I loved the ending result of it. And it was only within the first 30 minutes of the movie, which is why I loved it so much, because I was like, where's this movie going to take me now? That scene was freaking amazing. I can imagine where this scene is going to take me. So I loved that. So all that worked. The camera work, it's shaky cam, and most people actually complain about that with Greengrass's Bourne film, Supremacy and Ultimatum. Some people didn't care for Supremacy because of the shaky cam. Same can be said for Ultimatum. I thought it worked very well in Supremacy. I feel it works to a degree in Ultimatum. Like the Morocco scene, it worked. Jason Bourne jumping off rooftops, falling into windows, crashing into other buildings and shit, that worked for me. That was awesome. I thought that really was intense, and I thought it was a good utilization of shaky cam. There are a few moments where it doesn't work. For me, the weakest scene in the movie is actually the New York City car chase scene in the end of the movie. There was a big car chase scene in Moscow in Supremacy. I thought that chase scene was way more exciting. I think the highlight in terms of blocking and staging of this movie was the Morocco rooftop scene. My favorite scene is the Waterloo scene, but the highlight in terms of staging and choreography and everything and planning is that Morocco scene. But for me, the New York chase scene is the weakest scene in the movie. Not the weakest scene in the movie, but in terms of the other action scenes, it doesn't hold up to the other two. But that said, I would like to get into my problems, a few problems I did have with this movie, which is why I don't feel it holds up to Supremacy. Might not even hold up to Identity. My first two big concerns with this movie is, one thing, and I didn't understand this. I didn't understand why they kept repeating this shot over and over again. But whenever two characters are talking, it's a series of over-the-shoulder shots. They're in a diner or they're in a restaurant or something. Could be any characters. The camera always does this thing where they have the person's shoulder that they're over is sort of blocking, is taking up most of the frame, and that other character who is across from the table or something, half of their face is like cut out, and like that person's body is like taking up half of the frame, more than half of the frame even. And I don't know, I get that might have been a choice. Maybe they could justify why they did that, but they did it like 4 or 5 times in this movie, and I just don't think that's a particularly stimulating shot. Like, I don't think it offers much. I guess I get what they're trying to say with it. Maybe that person who's in more of the frame, their body takes up more of the frame, maybe they're in power over the other person in that scene. But I just feel it's not a strong way to visually tell a scene, you know what I mean? So I honestly felt that framing technique didn't work at all. And they did that in Supremacy, I think, but I don't think they did it as much. Like, they did it so much in this movie to the point where it started to bother me. So I don't understand that. Like, I've been on set, like, I was working on a short that I was directing, and my DP was setting up a shot, and he says, I don't like how this shot looks, because we were setting up an over-the-shoulder shot. He said, look at this person's shoulder. It's taking up too much of the frame and cutting off the other character's face. That's why, you know, and I agreed with him then, and I agree with it here. It doesn't really look that great, so that didn't really work for me. The other thing that bugged me a bit, and this is probably why I didn't care for the New York City car chase as much, was because the cuts, because everything's shaky cam, it's already not difficult to pay attention to everything, but you have to like really be alert on the cuts. But when the cuts are quick, it makes it very difficult to pay attention to things. So the New York City chase wasn't very well cut together. A few shots I was like, wait, what did they just do? What was that a shot of? They cut away from it so fast. So I didn't agree with the cuts in that scene, which is why that wasn't the strongest scene for me. And finally, perhaps my biggest problem with the Bourne Ultimatum, which is keep me from saying this is one of the best, if not the best Bourne film, is because the structure of the script, as I said earlier, just feels like Supremacy. And I'll give you a blatant example as to why. The main plot point, Jason Bourne has a series of memories because he's had amnesia since the first movie, has to go back, essentially retrace his steps, figure out who's involved, who was involved in his past life, goes after that person. The CIA is also after that person. Same exact thing that happened in Supremacy. There is a sniper character in both movies who kill two characters, one in each movie, that is connected to Jason Bourne in some way, or Bourne meets with that character or knows that character somehow. So that happens in both movies. That sniper character, Edgar Ramirez in this movie, and Carl Urban in Supremacy, both do not have a lot of screen time at all. They come in the beginning when they have to get their kill, and then they come in the very end, and that's all we see of them in the entire movie. And then we have Julia Stiles' character, who comes in for about 20 minutes in this movie, maybe 15 minutes more than Supremacy, because she was only in that movie for like 5 minutes. And Jason Bourne is sort of working with her, or he's holding her hostage like he did in Supremacy. So that, you have that component. So then you have that. Then you have 3 basic big action set pieces. And then you have the climax and the resolution of a car chase scene. Once in Supremacy, it was in Russia. In this movie, it was in the city, in New York. And in both movies, the sniper is chasing Jason Bourne in a car chase scene. It literally feels so derivative. It feels like the exact same thing I've seen with Supremacy. So for that reason, I never got totally hooked and engaged into this movie like I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like, I always felt like I was waiting for something more, for me to connect more to the overall story and structure, but I couldn't, because I felt like I was watching almost the exact same movie, but with different characters and a slightly different objective for Bourne, although the same exact objective is to find out what he did in his past. So I really hope that the new Jason Bourne movie is actually different from this same derivative formula that we've gotten now in the last 2 movies. I think it worked in Supremacy, but to do it almost again the same way in Ultimatum didn't quite work for me. So guys, for those reasons, I know it sounded like I was kind of giving this movie hate. I still had fun with it. I had fun with the action. It was intense. It was exciting. There were shocking moments throughout every scene in this movie. Awesome Jason Bourne kick-ass CIA moments, not only where he's kicking their ass with action and his fists, but he's like mentally destroying them and whooping their asses. So because of that, I'm still going to go high with my grade, but I'm not going to go as high as my grades for the last 2 movies. I'm going to give the Bourne Ultimatum a solid grade of a 8.75 out of 10. Almost forgot my grade there for a second. Or a B+. I don't think this is the best Bourne film. I think this is actually the 3rd best Bourne film. It's the lowest of the 3 of the trilogy. For me, it's going to go Supremacy. Identity is like right under Supremacy. And then Ultimatum is actually my least favorite. So there you have it, guys. Those are my thoughts on the Bourne Ultimatum. Didn't think it was as good, but hopefully Jason Bourne is better. I'm keeping my hopes up for it. Hopefully it's different and it doesn't follow the same formula. So guys, leave me your thoughts down below on the Bourne Ultimatum. I'd probably piss some of you off if that was your favorite Bourne movie, but sorry. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.